When I was a doctoral student at Duke University, I thought I was so busy that I really didn't have time to rest. Now back then I didn't really know what busy was compared to now, but I was busier than I'd ever been before. But one day I read an article, an old article from Christianity Today called A Case for Quiet Saturdays, which suggested that everybody needs a Sabbath, everybody needs a break. It's a biblical principle. You see in the Bible that even the animals were to be given a break. It's just the way God made us. We need that. And the article was arguing, well, it doesn't have to be on Sundays. You know, the blue laws back then, people took off on Sundays. It said, but the big thing, we can join forces with people who keep it on any day, because the important thing is that we keep a day of rest. Now, I had thought about this somewhat before, because one time in my local town there was a letter to the editor that said, it was written by a Seventh-day Adventist, said the Sabbath is on Saturday. In the Bible it was never changed. Well, that's true. Actually, the day was never changed in the Bible. It was after the Bible. And a pastor wrote in and said, well, we're not under the law, therefore the Sabbath is on Sunday. Now, I thought that was the kind of argument for which the phrase non sequitur was created. The conclusion doesn't follow from the premise. But in any case, the idea of having a day of rest seemed to be something impossible given my schedule. But when I looked at it, I mean, no matter what you think about the law, the Torah, it's in the Ten Commandments. And in the Ten Commandments, it's like you had different festivals in Israel that celebrated different acts of God. This was celebrating God's act of creation. And you go back to the creation narrative. Before the law was ever written, God himself gave the example by taking a day off. Undoubtedly is an example for all of us. And again, however you take, whatever level of figurative or literal, however you take the creation narrative, it was important to have a day of rest. And so, busy as I was, I said, well, this is biblical, I need to do it. And so I started doing it myself from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, and taking that every day. I couldn't do it on Sundays anyway. I was an associate pastor in a church. It's kind of hard to take that off. But what I found after a while was, it was like a circuit breaker. I'd have all the stress building up for 1 week, but on this one day I'd force myself to stop. And at first it was like putting the brakes on. But by the end of the day, all the stress had been washed out, and it was a circuit breaker. I didn't carry 1 week's stress into the next week and let it build up cumulatively over time. Taking a Sabbath is a way of recognizing our finiteness, recognizing our limits, and that's something that we need to do as mortals, as human beings. And people ask me how I get so much work done. Well, I do have to work very hard, it's true. But actually, keeping a Sabbath helps me to do that. And I've also read studies where people tend to live longer. You get more of your time back at the end, apparently, is a generalization. If you take a day off every week and use that time to stop whatever work you've been doing and just honor the Lord.